Hi there, baseball fans. Welcome back to another Prep Baseball of North Carolina podcast. I'm Brandon Hall. I'm joined today by our duo of scouts. I'm going to try to remember how to do this because it's been a little bit since we've been on air. We've been out watching games. We've been covering players. We've been all over the place. We haven't been at home. We haven't been able to get on the computers. But I got Patrick Johnson scouting in the Western North Carolina for us and Zach Borowski handling the East. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good. I hope everything's well with you guys.
Yep. Can't complain. Everything's going good. Just busy.
Busy. The two kids battled sickness. It hammered the household. I'm trying to get out 2-3 days a week and see games. I've been out a little bit heavier here, and then T-ball has started. So we do not have a team name yet, but we are a lot better than we were last year. Last year I got the youngest group possible. This year I got the oldest group possible. So we're a lot more advanced in what we're already learning load and unload. Hitting wise, so we're off and running. If anybody has T-ball tips, feel free to fire them our way. I can use all the help I can get. But big time in North Carolina right now. High school baseball has started. The Power 25 has been out. Our scout blogs have been out. We've been updating game coverage. We've been out. We've already processed and seen over 100 players in our scout blog. And guys, what are we hearing? What are we thinking? What are we seeing as we start getting into this high school season and see it rolling? Zach, let's start with you.
It's been a year for the draft. Draft guys have actually held their stock. Usually in most years, people go up and down. For North Carolina, this could end up being a really big draft year. As I said, most people kind of trend down. Nobody's really trending down, and most people are trending north right now. So it's been good for that. In my area on the East, it's been Ashley, the Screaming Eagles, and they've been the team to beat. So I think that's going to kind of be who everybody's going to go through in the East.
Patrick, What are you hearing out there in the West?
I mean, same as what Zach said. I mean, guys are kind of performing the way that they're supposed to, and there's been a lot of good pitching performances so far this year. Also, a lot of hitting too, but. Out here on the West, I think TC Roberson's the team to beat. I know they lost the other day, but they're stacked top to bottom, pitching, fielding, hitting. I think they're the best all-around team out of anyone out here, and I think it'll be fun to see how it plays out the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm checking you right now to see. I don't remember them losing. So,
that could be on me.
Like I said, it's been rolling. Yeah, you're right. 8-1.
Hey,
that's right. They dropped the game to Parkview while they were in Alabama, but they've rolled off here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Big win over Charlotte Christian, was number 6 in our Power 25. Took care of AC Reynolds on Friday. Yesterday. The Christian game was this past Saturday. Things are starting to run together a little bit for me. And then they had the Player of the Week this past week in JT Smith. So the Rams are off to a good start. And as we look here a little bit and we dive into our Power 25, it's been an interesting season at this point. For the most part, the Power 25 is kind of held. The teams that we thought were going to do well have done well. The teams we thought were going to play really well have played really well. And the Power 25 has kind of held its own as we look at it here. We got Roberson 1. Right now, Catholic's at 2. Catholic has dropped a couple games since we've updated some of this information. The better teams have played better, and I know Zach talked about Ashley. Who are some of the other teams out in the East, Zach, that have played and kind of held their water? If you don't mind, let's start in the Greenville area because we have Conley at 7, South Central at 9, Rose at 10, and those three teams are going to knock each other off here at some point, as they already have. I think Conley beat South Central earlier.
Conley beat South Central last week. All three really talented guys. All three run through the pitching staff. I would say the pitching dominates all three of them. I think Rose has probably the best top to bottom lineup, at least consistently right now. Conley's been able to really pitch and play defense, especially in the East. I think that's kind of where like the top 3 in Greenville is going to be. Couple sneak guys around. Millbrook started off 7-1 in Raleigh, and then Durham Riverside started off 6-0 So for some of the 4As, a couple guys that are kind of poked in that have been probably better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah. For me, one of the teams that kind of popped up and we've been tracking here lately, I know they've struggled a little bit this week in the last 7 days or so, New Hanover High School. Wasn't a club that we kind of had earmarked really early in terms of, where are they going to land? There's some other teams out in that area we thought maybe a little bit better and trying to figure out that early season Power 25. But they've gone on the road. They've knocked off some Power 25 teams at the time. They've played well in their region, and they've played a great schedule. So, we're looking for those teams that are going to be kind of popping into the Power 25. It's teams like that. And Hanover has a little bit of work to do probably this week to kind of get back into it. But when you look at Millbrook, you look at Covenant Day School in Charlotte, the schedule those teams have played early, and then they've won. Teams that have struggled a little bit, the first one that pops out to me has been Wesleyan Christian. We're filming this on Wednesday. We'll release on Thursday. Sam Cozart threw a perfect game last night, punched, I think, 14 in 6 innings. From everything that we heard, stuff was really electric, and the perfect game was fitting. He'd earned that one. The stuff played into that. But Wesleyan Christian as a whole, they're still very talented. I've seen them play once. I've seen them play twice. They took that trip early in the season to Alabama. They played a bunch of teams that had 8, 9, 10 games under their belt. Their first time playing. And I think some of that hangover carried back. They're in every game. They're right there. And then they've had, one hiccup here, one hiccup there. But I think the other thing we have to remember, too, about some of these teams is they're still trying to find themselves compared to who were they last year and who are they going to be this year. I know Cardinal Gibbons fits that. Maybe out in the West, Tuscola fits that. East Rowan's fitting that a little bit. What were these schools last year? How were those programs defined last year where they lost seniors? Now they have some younger guys playing, and who's kind of has the ability to figure out who they are very quickly. Some of these teams that are rolling, Ashley, Catholic, Roberson, Metro Atlantic Christian are returning a base core of who they are. So when we look, again, across the state, who are some of the teams that maybe are struggling a little bit, maybe you're expecting to see make that run as we kind of get them going again?
I'll probably say Holly Springs, at least to start. They got a lot of dominant arms. And if arms win, especially late in the year, as long as they can pick up the hitting a little bit, I think they got enough talent to knock off a lot of people because their core 4 of pitching is as good as most people around here.
And I think there's competition with that 4 too. Who are going to be the top 2 starters? Caleb Renstrom really, really well out of the bullpen, impressing some guys. I think the other thing, a team like that, I know Patrick saw North Lincoln play. I saw Hickory play. So teams with starters coming out of basketball. Maddox McRae is going to be really good. Wasn't quite that guy on Friday, although the stuff showed it. Boy, there were spurts, but you could see the rhythm wasn't there just yet. And it's his second outing back, and he played deep into basketball. I think Kellen Kerr, Coastal Carolina commits North Lincoln. You saw him, Patrick, similar issues, similar deal. I know he threw really well for you in terms of what the stat line looked like. What'd you see?
I mean, I didn't see any issues. I mean, he was 86 to 88 all night. I mean, he's been higher, but the command of the off speed and just how he handled the game, being able to, he was in the flow, anything that happened, he didn't let it bother. Not much happened. I think St. Stephen's had 2 hits that night. But he was able to handle the game well. He mixed his pitches well. They couldn't get their rhythm all night. And he was just, he dominated the whole time through the game. And, he looked like, other than, he was mid-season form that game. And I mean, I think he was a little pumped up. St. and North Lincoln had a little incident the game before when they played with the collision at home. So I think everyone was kind of, the senses were heightened for that game. They were ready to go. I mean, and Cole Briggs threw well for St. Stephen's too. It was a good game. Everything happened there in 1 inning, and other than that, it was a really close game. It was fun to watch.
Zach, from your end, in the pro scouting community, trying to figure out some of these guys that maybe are off to a little bit slower start, not slower start in terms of how they're performing, but they're not ramped up. We're seeing guys at preseason All-State, some of our preseason IDs, they're ramped up really prior to the season, prior to workouts and tryouts, and kind of getting ready to roll. So these guys coming out of basketball aren't. Luke Hemrick was a guy that we saw at our pro case who he was good. But I think the overwhelming desire was we don't think he's quite there yet because of how much time he spends on basketball. Now, we're going to go in there and see him soon. We're going to find out. But what's the overall thought process on trying to evaluate some of those guys?
Yeah, a lot of it's more you're going to watch your body. You're going to watch how the guy's moving. And then you can kind of get an idea. Like if you want to go back, if you want to see it, a lot of us love two-sport guys. Like I've always said it. I think it's a great thing. I think it really helps your body a little bit. I don't think it puts you crazy far behind if you're a pitcher. I think the hitters get a little bit further behind just because you don't get as many reps. You don't get to see the ball. A lot of times you're taking BP, but you're not seeing the guys throw live. You're not seeing the ball off a field. If anything, you're taking like a live indoor. And so I think the hitters get a little bit behind being the two-sport guy. Most pitchers can throw and then go shoot a basketball. Like I think they can kind of do a little bit of both of those things. So for the most part, though, nobody's been like crazy behind. And I think training's gotten a lot better. And I think people are more understanding that you can do both. Kind of when I played, like you played basketball until basketball was over and then you went to baseball. I think now that the times have changed and like you can go throw a 45 pitch pen, recover, and then you can go to basketball practice and you're not hurting yourself as much. So as I said, I think the hitters are a little bit further behind, which they always are. But like in the pro scouting world where people might be coming in early, I'll say that like I saw Quinn Bentley literally the first day back from basketball game, great swings, timing just a little bit off, like just a smidge off. And, 2 games later, he had a homer. And it just kind of works out that way. Sometimes we're like, we might be there at the wrong time for you to be like fully in gear, but sometimes it's just where our schedules work.
Yeah. And it's, the seasons, there's a link to the season too. So I think we're all out of the chute, out of the gun. We're all hopping. We're all ready to see all these guys, and they're going to perform really well. But there's been a number of guys that have performed really well at the end of a season that have been, put in positions where they're going to be decent drafts. So I think that's one of the things to kind of remember is guys are rolling in there to see guys now, but all they got to do is have one good outing in the middle of the year, towards the end of the year, and guys are going to be back in there to see them. Word gets out. There's not a whole lot of hideout with the way things work nowadays. So, we're going to move forward now. One thing to remember, Power 25, it's posted. We typically release our Power 25s updated every other week. The overall national, I think it's the top 50 in the country, released this past week. There will be some shakeups in North Carolina that were reflected into that overall ranking, and they'll update that every 2 to 3 weeks based on kind of when the country gets really rolling. Obviously, Texas, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, we're all rolling, and it's happening, and it's going, and players are playing. But different areas of the country, they're just now getting started with practices and things like that. So that overall ranking will start to really take shape here in the next couple of weeks. Guys, let's move forward now. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing weekly. And the first one's our Player of the Week. It's kind of a 2-part deal for us. We get a bunch of information in from coaches. So we actually send an email out. We say, hey, coaches, let us know how your players played. And the coaches send a lot of information back. And then, between the three of us, we're in the box scores. We're in the stat notes. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're trying to take as many notes as we can in terms of how guys are playing and piecing some things together. And then we get together Mondays and we pick a Player of the Week and a Pitcher of the Week. This week, the Player of the Week was JT Smith out of Roberson High School. And Patrick, if you got that stuff pulled up, I'll let you talk about these two guys. And then the Pitcher week was was it Caleb Ross?
No, Ross McLam.
Ross McLam. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sleep deprived right now. Ross McLam, pitcher from Pamlico County. Ross punched 18. And threw a one hitter. That's going to get you on the board. And JT had a big week in which TC Roberson went 3-0. If that's right. Yeah. You got that?
Yeah, no, he did. He had a big week. Behind the plate did unbelievable, but just in the box, man. I know TC Roberson had a good week, but the Wofford commit, he was seeing the ball well this week. He had a big game against Inca. He was 4 for 7 against Inca, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and then against Charlotte Christian, big matchup for TC Roberson. He was 3 for 3 that day with a double, another homer, 2 RBIs. And I think that just goes to say, like I said, with TC Roberson being the team to beat. I mean, he had a great week this week, but they got other guys too that can put up numbers, and it just goes to show how talented that team is. And I think it's going to show how far they go this year. But yeah, he had an unbelievable week for TC Roberson.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is JT. We apologize about the picture. We looked for a different headshot. We looked for a different picture. You got your eyes closed now. You're a little younger. That's on us. But there's copyright laws, so there's some things we can't do. Just pulling information off the web. So I hope you're not getting crushed too much on that. But just point to the week that you had. If anybody questions, kind of how that worked out and how good a week you really had. So. We'll roll now. I'm going to share my other screen. Let's see. We'll stop sharing that. And then we're going to talk about our pitcher of the week, Ross McLamb. 18 strikeouts, 1 hit, and a win for Pamlico County. And Ross was one of those guys that was at our preseason All-State East. Any notes on him as I'm getting this prepared and going to bring that video up?
Obviously he did really well. I mean, he's got, whippy arm, kind of a funky arm action when he releases it. And I mean, he's got a lot of movement on his ball. I mean, he's for high school kids with his 3 pitches. I mean, he's going to be tough to hit, especially when he's throwing strikes. Got good velocity, chance to keep going with it. Like I said, when he's consistent, he's going to be really tough to hit. These high school kids are going to have a tough time picking him up.
We watched this video on him. I'm a fan of the arm slot. I think there's a chance to create some deception. There's some whip in the arm, obviously. The thing I love about being in Next Level in the training center in Greenville is they got the blue backdrop here. It's really on both sides. The catcher can see what he needs to see, but we can also track the ball here, and you can kind of see where that window is. I'm going to back him up a little bit, but you can see where that window is, and you can see fastball, breaking ball coming out of a similar window.
Right.
He's going to learn at some point to kind of create what I call X's, where he can throw the ball. He can start in the same spot. He's going to go to arm side. Then he's going to go to glove side. He's kind of creating an X across the plate. And I could see where, especially with high school hitters, especially if he's showing feel for at least one spot, glove side or arm side, it's going to be a really, really tough at bat. And then we're looking at the body. He's got a chance to continue to get better. So this is an exciting 2026 to watch. Already having success. Already done some really good things in front of us. He was one of our high risers out of this event when we released the 2026 rankings, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But seeing it's always nice too. We kind of grade or tick somebody way up in our rankings based on their performance and based on how they did, and then seeing how that translates into game action.
Patrick, how many strikeouts you have in a game? What's your most?
My most?
Both of y'all.
Oh, jeez, I don't want to do that against Patrick.
I'm curious. I was a closer, so I got like 4. So 18 sounds like a lot. I think I got 4, maybe 5 in the game.
I probably got to 15 once or twice. I usually got to 8 or 9, but mine were different because even in high school, I kind of figured out the order. And by the time we got through the order once, I knew which guys in the order had a chance to get hits against me, and they were going to have to hit balls. I was willing to walk those guys to get deeper in the order because there were parts of the order I was just going to dominate because I could locate. And if they struggled to spin, I could spin it. If they struggle to change, I could change it. So I could attack weaknesses. So I could pile some stuff up at the bottom of the order and make it look really good. Where I got in trouble was when there were 5 or 6, a Roberson lineup, 5 or 6 guys, 7 guys in the lineup that, oh my God, now I got to throw strikes and get outs. I would have been in trouble because the stuff was soft.
I was a freshman at St. Stephen's. This was back in 2004. It was a long time ago. I punched out 19 and lost.
Is that Bumgarner?
No, it was to Bunker Hill or so. I can't remember, but I remember it was Bunker Hill. I punched out 19 and we lost the game.
So 4, 15, and 19. There we go.
I had a high school teammate who ended up playing at Chapel Hill who he had a 5-inning game. It wasn't a game. We closed behind him, but he threw 5 innings and he punched 19 in 5 innings.
That's good.
He was filthy. I mean, the ball, we talk about guys and seeing the ball jump now and the radar gun readings. His radar gun reading was like 88, 86 to 89, but he was absolutely blowing people's doors off.
Hey, 90 back in the day hurts your heart.
and I'm going to date myself. This was the plug-in gun. This was the one that had the briefcase had a battery in it, and you had to plug the gun into the briefcase. So you guys may be looking at me like I don't think that's really.
Is this the one that doesn't hit 100?
I've never heard of that.
Is this the one that doesn't hit
that? So
is this one that it doesn't hit 100, right?
No, it goes 99. And it has a star next to it.
Yeah, because Jason Neighborgall hit like 100, and they thought the radar gun was broken.
Yep.
Okay.
So there was a time when I was using that gun early on in my career at Wilmington. We had the hair dryer gun, the old Jugs guns, but if one of those was on the fritz or batteries were bad, the briefcase gun worked. And so I took it to go see a kid that was actually playing at Garner, but I think he was from Johnston County. And his dad's kind of hovering behind me, and every time the gun would flash, it was an old gun, so it's going to read lower, a lot lower than the hair dryer guns. He would yell out the reading, 83, come on, boy, you got to throw it, let's go. 82, and every time he yelled out, the number would go down. Well, it had a test flip on it, and so when the next pitch is coming in, I flipped the test switch, and it would flash 99. And so as soon as the pitch comes, I flip the test switch and get 99 flashes, and all of a sudden you hear, that's what I'm talking about. He didn't call that one out. And he walked away, and I could kind of go back to work. But then when we called him to recruiting, the dad was asking us, what's the best offer we've ever done? What's our best fastball on our staff? And then he's like, well, my son touched 99. So, whatever your best guy is, he's way better than that. And you're going to have to pay him like that. I was like, I don't think that's how it's going to work, but okay. So reliving glory days here.
Yeah.
The other things that we've got going on the website, just so you know, the Diamond Notes. The Diamond Notes section is coming off of that pitcher and player of the week that we put out. All the other players, we put a list together and we put that out. Patrick puts that together. That's out. I think we had 30 plus players this week. And Patrick, I know you're kind of following some of that stuff and seeing some of those numbers. We're seeing insane strikeout numbers. We're seeing home run numbers. We're seeing, some other things like that. But the other thing I like too is coaches will put in their notes. Guy made 11 chances without an error. 2 web gems on Friday. Nobody's trying to steal on us. He's not going to throw anybody out because nobody's willing to run on him. Things of that sort. So it's a different way for us to kind of get to know these guys too. Other things, we're going to keep moving on. Scout Blog. The Scout Blog is one of my favorite things that we do. And we can see this is from last week. Last week's is up March 10 through 15. We had about 35 players in last week's Scout Blog. And the way we've sectioned it is we kind of section it by pro prospects, committed prospects, uncommitted prospects, young guys. And so guys can kind of filter through there. We've got a bunch of video. Again, like I said, we've already gone over 100 players that we've kind of profiled on that. Zach, some of the pro guys that we've kind of followed and tracked, who's kind of popped to you? Any of the blogs that you've seen or put out, or any of the pro guys that you've popped, been really intriguing here to this point?
Yeah, I got to go watch Pro 5 the other day. So we got to see a couple of names that just kind of jumped out, somewhat pro, somewhat not. Grady Linehan, young guy. He's not really young. He's going to East Carolina, outfitter, can absolutely fly. Squared up a couple balls off a really good arm. Guys like 90-93. He kind of stood out in that nature. He hit a couple homers the next couple days. Just a guy that I had never heard of and just kind of set it on the map. Was like, oh, here I am. And then I don't know if we have a scout blog. Obviously, the Josh Hammond, and Coy James, those 2 guys have been, lighting up the world lately. So those 2 guys have been really fun to see. And I got a young guy, Christian Serrano, pretty much put himself on the map the other day, and it has looked very impressive going for the 26 draft class.
So the stuff on Serrano and some of the Pro 5 guys should be out here soon. Sharing the screen right now. Hammond, I had a chance to see Hammond play last week. A throng of scouts in there with him and Caden Hart on the same field. And Hammond slimmed down a little bit. He hasn't lost weight, but he looks leaner. He looks quicker on the infield. The bat speed's still there. The ball to barrel ability is still there. I had him 4.33, 4.35 on one of these down the line. And what it was his worst swing of the day, but you can see that there's pretty easy rhythm. There's been a bunch of strength there. He gets a little lungy there, but he's facing a decent arm here from Oak Grove in this game played on the road or in Thomasville. So I know his name has been hot. Guys have been there to see him, and he's performed. I think that's one of those things with him, with Coy James, with some of these guys. It's just been how are they going to perform? Now these guys are seeing him. Here's Josh getting down the line. So he's going to walk. He beats that one out, and then I think he goes double here. Sometimes we leave in some of the takes and some of the foul ball swings just so guys can get a feel for the rhythm. Sometimes we don't, just trying to give guys a taste of what the swing's like. But you can see Josh moving pretty well right there. The other guy I had a chance to see that same week was Luke Roop. Luke attended our Super 60. He's kind of been a name follow, and he's been thrown on Fridays, which sometimes is a tougher look for the pro guys just because there's so many college things going on. But Luke's he now has 2 wins where he's gone CG. He's been behind entering the 7th, and then his Crusader teammates have been able to come up with a big knock somewhere to get him the win as the 7th finishes. But he's thrown well. It's pitchability as much as anything else with fastball's been good enough. It hasn't taken that jump. And again, guys are going to be back in there again later in the year to see him. The slider plays, though. The slider has length. He has the ability to manipulate that length. He's a bigger physical guy, broad shoulders. There's still room to project where he's going to be. The arm works. There's arm speed. And the feel for the glove side's good enough. You know, when we're trying to evaluate, do guys have command right now? Nobody has command in high school. Very, very few guys, if any, are ever going to have command in high school. But they have control. He throws strikes. He's around the zone. Is he showing an ability to kind of go to one side of the plate? Is he showing an ability to every now and then elevate? Can he pound the down zone? Is there a feel for something there? Can he throw a strike with his changeup? Can he do some different things with the slider? And that was the thing that was really encouraging with Luke was the slider. It's a little bit short early in counts, but when he wants to, he can really lengthen that thing. He can start it at hitters and take it all the way across the zone. He can start it at hitters and land it in the zone. So he's able to kind of manipulate the shape and attack hitters like that. And, you know, from y'all's standpoint, you know, trying to evaluate where, you know, hitters and pitchers is 2 different evaluations. Pitchers, I think sometimes guys are going in there, I need to see him once. He needs to do something for me, and I'll go back in and see him. With hitters, it's how many at-bats can I get? You know, am I in the ballpark on that in terms of what you guys have seen and how you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitchers got to have a separator. I think that high school hitters get away with bad strike, or high school pitchers get away with bad strike zones where they're like, oh, I'm dominating, I'm throwing a lot of strikes. And in reality, like when you get to a real plate in college or a pro ball and you're having to throw stuff over the plate consistently, that changes kind of how your stuff actually plays. A separator is the key, whether it's a fast arm, a elite spin, a ball with ride, impressive strength, and the arm strength. Like there's just something that's got to separate you. Hitters, it's just, can you hit? Like we were actually talking about this today. Can you hit the ball on the barrel consistently and have a good, clean bat path? Don't really matter what it looks like. We broke down a few swings today. If you can get on the barrel and get on time, that gives you a chance. And so obviously for us, being able to see that the most, so that was kind of the 2 differences of it. You know, hitters is a little bit smaller because being able to hit's a harder tool. Like I feel like it's the hardest tool in the game right now, especially the way the game's trending in the hit tool. So if you have that tool, you got a lot more to get away with.
Such a hitter saying that right there.
I pitched too. I got 4 Ks in the game. Calm down.
I mean, you're right. It is tough. It's tough. It is. But no, I mean, you're right, though. I mean, you know, can you hit the ball? Pitchers. I mean, one of the things that I like to see is like if a guy does struggle, you know, how's he handle it? You know, like what's he going to do after he struggles? Does he get back in can he get back in the rhythm? Can he shake it off? You know, because most of the guys we go see, they have stuff. You know, they show their stuff. We know what they're going to do. You know, but when they face a little adversity, like, you know, how do they handle that? I think that shows a lot about a kid. And at the plate too, like, if he struggles for a day, does he go out there and, you know, make the routine plays, make the diving plays? You know, does he still play hard in the field? You know, those are all things that try to look at also.
I think one of the things too that we get lost, especially with the high school players, is they're trying to figure out what guys want to see. You know, they're trying to figure out, Do they want to see a velocity? They want to see a bunch of strikeouts. They want to see me just dominate the game as few pitches as possible. Do they want to see a bunch of barrels? They want to see a home run. Do I need to try and make everything a double? And trying, and do I get away from just playing the game? What we encourage guys to do is just go be yourself. Treat everything like you would if it was a World Series game. And then just let it kind of fall where it falls. But we do see a lot of peripheral. I had I had somebody that was involved with a player watching a radar gun, and they're not seeing 4s and 5s like we've been seeing on Twitter, and they're seeing 1s and 2s, and it was like completely deflating. And we talked a little bit about it with Briggs. Briggs was quote unquote, he was down. But, he was 89, 91. He was a little bit better early from what I'd heard, but, it was down. Guys are going to fluctuate. We watched this morning, we watched the Japanese guy from the Dodgers. His first 9 fastballs were 100. He's going to get 30 starts. He's not going to do that every single time. He's going to have a start where he sits 93, 95, and at the big league level. And so there's this perception that guys just maintain and command stuff, and they have all this, and it just carries all the time. Verlander has never carried stuff for 30 starts. Now, he wins when he's down, but he doesn't carry that type of stuff. They figure out ways to do it. We always talked about in our staff, if you're going to get 16 starts, you're going to have 4 where your lights out. We walk out of the bullpen. I tell our head coach, score 1 and we win. We're going to have 4 where we walk out of the bullpen and my mind's already going, who's next? Who am I getting up? And how early do I get them up? And then we have 8 starts in the middle. And that's where we make our money. Well, we can't freak out when we have one of those 4 because they're going to happen. The bad 4 are going to happen. And now how do we handle that? And that's why our scouting community in this area, we're so lucky to have some of the guys in this area that we do. They work their freaking tails off. They are everywhere. And, that allows guys to say, okay, I've seen him bad, like Patrick's saying. I've seen him good. What are we really getting in? And how is he going to handle pro baseball? How is he going to handle college baseball? How is he going to handle the ups and downs? I think another great example, and Patrick, I don't know if you've been following it, but it's Perry Hargett. Perry was our number 1 player in the class last year in the 2020. Is that 4s? Seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
And he's really athletic. And the reason, and I know we had conversations about who should be number 1 because it wasn't clear cut. But I was a proponent that Perry was the guy. But I was also a proponent all of them had to get better. And what Perry has done, if you watch his swing from last year and you watch the swing he's got right now at Chapel Hill, they're not completely different, but the pre-pitch, the rhythmic, and the load are different. Like they have retooled the swing. And so what you guys are saying is right. It's not necessarily about how does everything look and piece together right now, because when we get them into player development, some of this is going to change. Do they know where the strike zone is? Can they miss a bat? Do they know where the barrel is? Do they have bat speed? And that stuff kind of tends to play. And then it's player development, which is the same reason, and Zach, you can speak on this, we see so many misses. It's not because we were wrong, and that's easy for the guys putting the list and the rankings out there to say, we're going to get things wrong. Okay. But there's a belief as to why the rankings and the list should be the way they are. And it's a lot of it still continues, especially with 18-year-olds. How much better are they going to get? And that's kind of what we're leading to.
Yeah. I mean, we were actually talking about this the other day. There are a lot of beautiful swings that fail, and there are a lot of ugly swings that are successful. And like, it kind of sticks to you because you're like, we always try and find the pretty swing and we always try and pass on the ugly swing. And part of it is player development. Like, does it get to the right points? Developing guys, can we make a guy be able to hit a certain pitch consistently? And we were talking about like the way technology and the way baseball is, hitters are a lot better off. The pitching machines are so much better, which gives hitters so much of a better chance. Being able to see stuff, being able to pitch, recognize, when I played, like there was the curveball, like there was no curveball, like there was no curveball machine. Now you can get a Hack Attack or any of the machines. They can spend 3,000 spin rate curveballs, and you're actually a chance to see it. Like my curveball was my dad throwing a 1-finger pitch and it accidentally curved. Like that was the only way I got to hit curveballs in my life. Like it just wasn't a thing. And so now hitters are able to train so much more. So like, guys that chase a little bit, you think there's a better chance because of the way that the technology and the machines are. He can see 10,000 curveballs in pro ball and eventually like, oh, I don't need to swing at this, So I think there's a lot to it. But overall, like I think it's trending in the right direction for hitters with those? Like the better the machine, the better you are.
Yeah. And I think it's a great point. My computer will work. There we go. I think it's a great point. One of the things that we talked about constantly is how do you get hitters to get to velocity? How do you get hitters to handle velocity? They have to see it. How do you get pitchers to get good hitters out? Guys that have great approaches and can get to pitches and can really sit on a pitch and have a plan pitch to pitch, not at bat to at bat. They have to see it. You can't talk about that in the classroom. You can't do that in a bullpen. When a guy puts a swing on your slider and just misses it and jerks it right down the line with a great swing, and then you come back with fastball and he's on that too, well, okay, so now what's the game now? And how fine do I have to be? And but we have to learn this stuff. If we're constantly trying to, if we're trying to split hairs and hit a gnat's butt cheek, it doesn't work. We've got to stay true to who we are. We got to have ways to attack people with that. And from a hitting standpoint, it's very similar. So, I think it's something to keep in mind with as we move into our final topic. We're going to be quick with this one. We're not going to dive into it real deep, but rankings are out. The rankings have come out for the 25s, 26s, 27s, and 28s. Every single class expanded. Guys, just real quick, we got a couple minutes here. Overall thoughts on seeing all these guys in the preseason, seeing some of the rankings, and kind of not a huge lift on our part in terms of these rankings because we really didn't dive into the guys we didn't see because we don't know what they're doing in the offseason. Just diving into these guys. And even at that, we're seeing it in preseason. So we have to temper our expectations a little bit. But, overall thoughts on kind of what we saw in the preseason, these guys, with where they landed in the rankings. Patrick?
I think the guys that we saw, obviously the ones at the top that, the talent level separates them. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I think you're going to see a shift in some of the rankings as the season goes on when guys kind of hit that midseason form, and are able to get to the level that they expect to be at or they should be at. But the main guys are up there. I mean, some of the 27s, Salerno from Sun Valley, Seaman, Kellen Rogers, who was at our super sophomore last year. Those guys have been doing really well all year. And then you got in the 28 class over at, hang on, it's going slow right here. Vasquez over at Charlotte Christian, unbelievable player. Ethan Stewart, Levi Kerr, who was at our junior futures this past summer. Those guys are all uber talented, and I think they're going to be at the top. But the ones behind them, you're going to see a little bit of a shakeup once we can kind of get a better gauge on some of the younger guys.
Games matter, right, Zach?
Yeah, games matter a lot. Like, it's really cool to have like all these tools, but if you can't use them in a game, it don't matter. I'm gonna put my one guy out, Camden Kroom. We saw you in Wilmington. You were like 85, 87 with a decent breaking ball, and I was like, so I went to New Hanover. By the way, if you're a hitter, don't go to New Hanover. It's like a 40-mile-an-hour wind straight to your face. And Camden Kroom was 90 and 92, and he progressed. And listen, if you're a pitcher, go to New Hanover. It's going to blow straight in at 40 miles an hour. You can stand at second base, hit it twice. It's not going out. Like, it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
Well, I think you guys are dead on. It's an ever-evolving process, and we're extremely proud of the work we do on the rankings. It's one piece of what we do. That stuff's out. We hope players are using it as motivation. And, now it's time for us to go watch these guys in games, do the analytics and do the stats and do the physical makeup, the athletic ability translate into actual game action. So we're excited to kind of continue that process. We're going to hit the road again here tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, back at it. We're going to try and be a little bit more diligent in getting onto this podcast and talking to you guys. If there's topics you want to hear about, ping us, let us know, and we'll go from there. For Patrick Johnson, for Zach Borowski, I'm Brandon Hall, and we'll see you at the field.